My name is Nia Profi. I'll be coming up in the headlines. The National Association of Graduate Teachers, that's Nagrat, and the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, have instructed their members to stay out of the classrooms from Monday, March 18, 2013. Beg your pardon. Alfred Agbeshiwoyome has returned to court today, but the judge sitting on the case threatened to throw out journalists. We'll find out why from our correspondent covering that particular beat. And the Member of Parliament for Kwadaso has warned the country may face severe food crisis if the current decline in agriculture sector is not readily addressed. We have these plus wellness and some briefs. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday Brief. Now to our first story. The Member of Parliament for the Ododo-Diodio constituency, Nilante van der Poy, says his checks at the presidency indicates that government is not funding the controversial clergy trip to Israel. He was speaking on the morning show, the AM show.
I've made some checks on this issue. Government is not funding any trip of pastors to go to Jerusalem. What I know is they are facilitating, helping them with diplomatic issues so that they will be able to, but then they solicited support from individuals outside government to be able to go through with this. So I prefer the word facilitation instead of funding. And it all came up of the fact that there were some group of people who were arguing that when it gets to the issue of Muslim pilgrimage, government facilitates the Muslim pilgrims to be able to go to the pilgrimage. So when it comes to Christian pilgrimage to Israel, they will also want the same courtesies to be extended to them. And so that is what has generated this. So I don't know where this idea is coming from that people are making so much the government is funding.
Well, speaking on the same AM show, the General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, Reverend Dr. Fred Digbe, says the letter they received about the trip stated that government had already secured funding for the trip.
We received a letter, and for clarity, let me say that the letter stated that government has secured funding, and not for pastors, for Christians to go to Israel. Christians also sought to go to a pilgrimage in a long time. So when the letter came to the Christian Council, our response was, we want to know where it is coming from, what the package entails. Are people paying any money? So we had a number of questions. So we said we would like to have these questions answered for us by the coordinator and the sponsors. Then we got a deadline to meet, I think a day or two, and we said, no, if we don't have, but it's not possible for Christian Council to mobilize 25 or 10, whatever number overnight. We need to consult our churches. And therefore, that deadline will not be able to meet it. But we still want to dialogue to find out what it is about for clarity so that when the door opens, we may be able to go. So the kind of things that are in the press that they were giving 2 million, those, I don't know, we don't know where it is coming from because we have not had that dialogue with the coordinators, with the organizers to tell us what is in it, how long we're supposed to be there. So we are still asking questions, and some people have gone to press with details that we don't know where it is coming from.
However, the concerned Clergy Association of Ghana has issued a statement commending government for organizing a trip to Israel for the clergy, acknowledging that the pilgrimage to Israel has not been a doctrinal practice among Christians. Reverend Benny Wood said the prophetic impact and benefit of such a trip for the church in these end times cannot be underestimated. He stated that it was already common practice for private individuals to make the trip for commercial purposes rather than the national or kingdom interest, and as such welcomed the role of government in getting people to help. Reverend Wood further clarified that the letter inviting the councils to submit the names of people for the trip stated that, quote, government has secured funding. And this is a pilot program after which assessment will be made for subsequent trips in the future, believing that other Christian bodies that were opposed to the idea might be due to difficulty in organization. He advised the various council members to meet with government to fine-tune it to suit their expectations. Away from the clergy, the Member of Parliament for Kwadaso has warned the country may face severe food crisis if the current decline in the agriculture sector is not readily addressed. He was contributing to the debate on the 2013 budget in Parliament, which focused on the agricultural sector. The big sector was allocated 340 million Ghana cedis, representing 2% of the total budgetary allocation. But Dr. Owusu Akoto, who is a ranking member on Parliament's Food and Agriculture Committee, says the situation is fast deteriorating.
We made some gains, but unfortunately we are losing it all. And that is what saddens me and alarms me. Because what is happening is that if you look at the statistics which have been presented in all the budgets for the last 5 years since I have been in this Parliament, it is very clear. It gives you a pattern which is very, very worrisome. Where in 2008, agriculture from rhetoric or propaganda. There's a lot of rhetoric and propaganda by this government about the importance of agriculture. But when it comes to where the resources are to be put, very little is given. For instance, this year, agriculture has been allocated only 340 million Ghana cedis, which is only 2.1% of the total budget. And I'm saying that if you take this money to the savannah regions of the northern region, upper west, upper east, it wouldn't even revive agriculture there, never mind the whole country. So we have a big problem. And this oil fund, which you've seen the accounts that have been given, only a very small amount of the extra fund put aside has been allocated to agriculture. So it really shows you that the commitment of this regime to agricultural development is very little, which is very unfortunate because majority of Ghanaians, that is where their employment lies. We are talking about nearly 5 million farmers in this country and fishermen in this country who actually still provide the bulk of our production. I mean, if you look at cocoa, for instance, 2010, 2011, we achieved a historical peak of 1 million metric tons. The last 3 years following that, what is happening? You can see that cocoa production is coming down. This year, we'll be lucky to harvest only 800,000 metric tons. So it's very serious. It's happening all over the sector. I mean, same for maize and the other staples, same for livestock, for meat and fish, which is our daily source of protein. And it's a very worrying situation that we have. And it's better for us to highlight this situation and make sure that we find the solutions and the priorities rather than to pretend that everything is okay and when things are really rough. Every year when they come for the budget review, I make my points very clear. But you should understand, the policy and programs are the domain of the executive in our constitutional arrangement. We are here to make laws, to pass the appropriation bill so they can take away the resources, the budgetary resources, to go and pursue development. But it is a very futile effort as far as agriculture is concerned. As I said, they are projected 4.6% this year. They will be lucky if we get 2.5%. And come back next year, you say that I told you so. If this continues for another 5 years, there's going to be food shortages and food rows in this country because we wouldn't be producing enough for the rural folks, never mind those of us in the urban areas. And we'll be sitting on a political time bomb.
And you see that happening?
Well, unless things change drastically. And this is what I'm demanding.
Well, that was the Kwadaso MP, who is also a ranking member on the Parliament's Committee for Agriculture, speaking there to our parliamentary correspondent Elton John Broadway. But let's still stick with agriculture. We are told we are facing imminent food crisis, but some farmers are doing something to help. The Courtroom district of the Eastern region may just be a major hub for the cultivation of pineapple. Etonamse, who recently visited Yaojai, a community in the district, reports pineapple cultivation is the major preoccupation of farmers in that town. But the farmers face several challenges which might ultimately affect future cultivation of the crop.
Yaojai is a small community in the Courtroom districts of the Eastern region. Residents in this community are predominantly farmers who grow pineapple on a large scale, like this 36-acre farm, which is harvested every 12 months.
First, Nanki Dio from Sa, Nadio from Madudu a penny, Jama, Sissy Bidia Robinson wedding, Bondonako for 4 million. 4 million unibia, na as you Funia.
These men who work daily on this plantation speak about the problems they face in growing healthy crops.
Yeah, na niska because ye di kan ye no ebeboka exporters no to kwa won mitua ti ebeboka ntu bia adwuma be collapse kakanga kran say ya say kakanga kran ye na brofre no so mwa bi ba so ma yare bebom eno so ni nyina be collapse afi ni ya say kakanga kran ba niska
problems in the enya esan say ni ono no o sika no de ye no ono ni problem ndi onya ba wa niska no time e say o ma chemicals ni ma no unya fa man data min dino du benya problem bebli we dia bebli na so gitu e bi na betwa oh we betwa dia be say 10,000 but later no exporters in betwa no benya be say 4,000 na 3,000 per.
Thankfully, their efforts do not go waste as the local food manufacturer bails them out.
MD2 no buy no in exporter company ba ko pay for blue skies one water pineapple na blue skies no so no se wan kasa wo kwa won to je se wo ko mo bia register wo ha wonim no. India na to na the market women for water na kran boy.
Me blue skies art grower. Ye bu arebenu ye duano weekly intia ye weekly program team every week biano ye surprise 5,000 week bia ye surprise 5,000 any ejuma yeah.
Of course, Blue Skies does not purchase all the produce, so the rest is sold to market women.
Ebepro obi anto a ni nyina be se na se waboka ana sometimes e bebu e wo market wo export no nko nti bebu wo market wo nti ma no ko na se kubu a wo ma meto fa mo bi m na se wafu na we nyina ni nyina se waboka e o se yenya wo ebeto exporters ne ba no wo beto na fi yenya loans e bebo aye ma adwuma yetuma ye ne kese eno ne yen problem.
Because pineapples have a 1-year lifespan, these farmers have to grow other crops such as tomatoes and pepper, which have shorter maturation periods, to survive while they wait for their crop pineapple to be ready for harvest after 1 year.
First, ye hear low, I do a food. Second, ye are no so edu tama and I ready now beton so ye nyat of never ton. Janka be here, say export bi, and I say be a fat to be anybody ever contacted the Blue Sky. And we are doing a year, so now yama. They are ready to our catching. They demand more now between iron, and so marketing of our Tom.
Oh, fertilizer can be cut a deal on the boarding. And also every empire chemicals and when the name fertilizer sometimes cranny should be a year. So we Christmas, you have Christmas in a 2 better fertilizer and be a winner. And to be there about 20 years, no time will be open. Now I could not see any problem, Cassie. I don't see how you are.
At on Amsi. Joy News.
Bye-bye.
So there you have it, the story about pineapple cultivation in the Courtroom district of the Eastern region. But away from agriculture, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Nagrat, and the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, have instructed their members to stay off the classrooms from Monday, March 18, 2013. The giant teacher associations are peeved with the Ghana Education Service Management and government for what they describe as gross disregard for their concerns and a breach of trust. They declared industrial action at a joint news conference in Accra today, but we will bring you more about the press conference they held in our subsequent bulletins, at least the news briefings. But away from that, former Director General of the Ghana Health Service and a council member of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Elias Sori, has recommended nationwide implementation of the NHIS capitation program to help deal with the numerous challenges currently plaguing the scheme.
The NHI has consistently been criticized over its indebtedness to its service providers across the country. The situation came to a head this week as some missionary health centers refused to attend to patients with NHIS cards. In spite of the negative publicity the NHIS has endured, a former director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Elias Sori, thinks it is the best health insurance scheme on the continent. He, however, called for a review of its payment mechanism.
Capitation must be added to the form of payment now nationwide. It is just that we have not explained enough to people, to tell people what the capitation really means. And because we don't do it well, people are taking it that it is a political move. My fellow Ghanaians, without capitation, our fund will get eroded. The risk will be borne by the fund, and it will all go. Let the health provider take part of the risk and do things well.
He urged NHIS providers to take a second look at their mode of attending to patients.
We have to review that and make sure that the diagnosis that we make really correspond to the kind of treatment, which might be far cheaper, because 80% of the diseases in Ghana can be managed by cheaper way. We don't need to spend a lot of money on that.
He advised that the running of the scheme should be devoid of politics.
So once we've got a consensus on the concept, let us get bipartisan way of managing it. We don't do it to score points. And therefore, all payment mechanisms, a way of getting more money into it should be what we should be looking for, not attacking.
Dr. Sori urged the authority to be more clear in its communication on the release of claim payments and should provide periodic updates on the scheme to Ghanaians, as well as conduct periodical clinical auditing on claims made by providers.
In a related development, the youth wing of the Greater Accra Regional NDC has registered its dissatisfaction about the recent action by some groups calling for the removal of the Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Sylvester Mensah, from office. They call for Sylvester Mensah's head follows recent unsavory comments about the scheme by the minority and some opposition parties to the effect that Mr. Mensah has made a mess of the health insurance scheme.
Chief Executive of the NHIA, Sylvester Mensah, has come under a heated attack from a group calling itself Alliance for Empowerment. Some branch executive of the NDC say he has failed to provide leadership for the implementation of the one-time premium policy and have made a mess of the health insurance scheme. The group has threatened to storm the office of the NHIA to throw out the chief executive if the president hesitates in relieving him of his duties. At a press conference held at the Greater Accra Regional Office, the regional youth organizer, Thomas Ashon, and some youth executives registered their displeasure at the ongoing debate about the NHIA boss.
We, the youth of Greater Accra, are not happy about the development going on about Sly. Because this is a man we need to reward rather than to destroy. Just because we are just coming out of election, people who want to serve their parochial interests, who are angry for positions, to be at places where they did not toil and suffer for, will try to destroy such a youthful person that the youth of the NDC cherish so much.
The executive warned that those calling for the removal of the chief executive from office should stay away from peddling false news.
We, the youth of the NDC in Greater Accra, want to send a word of caution to those detractors to stay off Sly, to leave Sly alone, or they will have the youth of the region to contend with. Those of them who are also trying to use some of the youth activists from the various constituencies to foment trouble or to tarnish the high-end reputation of Sly should also desist from it, because the leadership of the youth wing will not take kindly to any of such things.
The group further says anyone who has anything against the chief executive should bring his facts for further debate.
Well, wherever you're watching us, in your homes, in your offices, this is the Midday Brief on Joy News on Multi TV, and you can get interactive with us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Joy News. So do send us your comments on the stories that you've heard in the bulletin so far. But let's move along. In a bid to raise capital for its operations, the National Identification Authority is charging $120 to register foreign nationals who permanently reside in the country. This authority hopes will help it raise at least part of the 50 million Ghana cedis it needs for its operations, even though the NIA law makes registration of foreign nationals permanently residing in the country compulsory. It is silent on whether they have to pay to be registered.
The National Identification Authority Act 750 authorizes the collection of personal and biometric data of not only Ghanaians but foreign nationals living in the country.
We've already started registering the foreigners. We started in February. We have 3 locations at the moment. One here in the authority, the other one in Calbank, the head office, and then also at the International Conference Center. So it's a project that has started, and it's a project that has been has resulted from the initiative of NIA and a private entity. So it's a public-private partnership project.
The registration of foreign nationals is exclusive to those permanently residing and working in Ghana, but foreign nationals who frequent the country regularly but are not residents can choose to apply for the card. Executive Secretary of the authority, Dr. William Ahiazi, says even though the registration of foreign nationals has started, the authority will soon embark on an intensive educational campaign to get foreign residents in the country to get registered. He also explained the rationale behind the registration of foreign nationals when sections of Ghanaians are yet to be registered.
This is a paying service. One of our challenges has been the volume of resources that we require for our operations, other operations, card distribution, enrollment, the establishment of the national identification system itself, which involves deployment of infrastructure for identity authentication in real time, and also decentralizing our operations into the regions and into the district. So all of those activities require a lot of money. And if we had the money from government, we would not worry very much. Those who passed the Establishment Act thought about this, and so they provided space in the law that allows us to go out there and raise revenue by ourselves. So we're just using a provision in our Enabling Act to raise some revenue. And with that, we can then discharge some other responsibilities that we are mandated by the law to do.
He admitted that the authority is under-resourced and would need massive capital injection to ensure the smooth implementation of its programs.
The range of things we require money for is extensive. But for the basic services and the famous question, when are cards coming? For card distribution, we are actually also exploring different options of partnering others to provide some resources. But government has committed to helping the authority to complete those basic responsibilities this year. Normally, for those ones, we're normally talking about 45, 50 million cedis for us to complete the registration and complete card distribution. But there are several other components of the national identification system which go way beyond 45 million Ghana cedis.
Registration of Ghanaians and the distribution of ID cards to them is still ongoing, and Dr. Ahiazi says Ghanaians are yet to receive their ID cards, and those who have not yet registered can visit the offices of the authority across the country for collection of their IDs or registration.
Well, some of you have started sending in your comments on the teachers' strike that was announced earlier, but we'll get to read them in a bit. But you can still send us your comments as well. Facebook.com/joynews. That's our Facebook address. But let's get on the phone lines now and back to the story about the teachers having declared a strike. That's Nagrat and Nat, who have instructed their members to stay off the classrooms. We've been joined on the line by the president of Nagrat, Christian Adaipoku. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thanks for joining us on the Midday Brief.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Okay, so tell us exactly why you've decided to start the strike, because if I remember right, you were supposed to have a meeting with the Labour Commission and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission over the concerns that you raised.
Oh, thank you very much. We have had the meetings with them, but the meetings did not yield any fruit. If you remember, early January, teacher unions were at the brink of declaring industrial action.
Exactly.
Some authorities that matter most stepped in and then assured us of speedy resolution of the issue. Unfortunately, all the three institutions that really promised to help resolve the issues have reneged on their promises.
When you say they've reneged on their promises, exactly how? As in they decided not to bother at all, or what?
With specific that the presidency invited us to the capital, discuss the issue with us, and then promised that a working group will be set up to deal with the issues within 6 weeks. We were duly written to submit the names of our members to represent us at the group level. We did so. At the end of it all, 6 weeks have come and gone. The commission was never, the committee was never commissioned.
Okay.
And there's no work was done. The Labour Commission also directed Ghana Education Service and Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to attend to some of the issues. As we speak, the issues, the deadlines that were given have all passed, and the issues have not been resolved.
Okay.
And so we think that some people are toying with our future, and they are just not sensitive to the future of the children of this country. And that is why when they even promised that they will conclude invigilation fees negotiation before the start of WATI, they rather sat down, and as we speak, WATI has started, and nobody has even sent a proposal to us for us to even reject. So clearly, for us as teachers, we have done our best. We sounded the alarm long before this time, telling the whole nation they need to sit down and resolve teachers' issues. But some people in authority decided that they would trivialize the issues, and that is what has brought us this far. As responsible unions, we have updated our members on development and frustrations that leadership have gone through, and that's why we are here today. The membership at the grassroots are saying that no, enough is enough. We have waited for far too long. For 3 years now that we have migrated onto the front of time, our issues have not been resolved. We can no longer wait. This is the time, and until those issues are resolved, from Monday, our advice parents not to send their children to school because there will be no teachers there to protect them. There will be no teachers there to teach them. Why invigilation will not be invigilated until the issues are resolved.
If you say from Monday the issues are not resolved, and you yourself have recounted the processes you've had to go through, 6 weeks having passed, the committee not being formed, what's the guarantee that between today and Monday your issues can be resolved? So then it means that definitely you are going to go on strike.
I wouldn't want to guarantee anything. Those who needed to guarantee something did not do it. They decided to play with the issues. They decided to slow down the issue. They decided to, buy time instead of approaching the issues radically and solving them. We wouldn't have gotten to the point where we are talking about expediting action. We could have resolved the issues gradually until we got into this point. But because they didn't do that, that is why now they will need a radical approach. If it means we have to sit down overnight and discuss and we reach agreement so that everybody will be satisfied, so be it. But the point is that we still have time from now up to Monday to resolve the issue.
But BEC is just around the corner, and the senior secondary school exam also. So what's going to happen to the students then? How do they prepare for the exams? Are you going to still be invigilators for these exams?
What has happened to my maintenance allowance over the past 15 months? What has happened to my incremental credits over the past 3 years? What has happened to my promotions over the past 5 years? What has happened to my retention premium which we have promoted over the past 3 years? Those are the questions we are also asking, just as we are asking about the future of the children we have prepared over the years. It's not our fault that we have gotten to this stage, and we believe that those who need to act can still act and save the situation.
Okay, so then I take, is there a timeline you're given for this strike? Will you call it off at some point, or you're going till the issues are finally resolved?
The press conferences that were organized by the various regions, I didn't organize them, but the message was clear that until the issues are resolved, nobody is going anywhere. So,
as you're saying, if say a meeting is called again between today and Monday to resolve the issues, you're still going to be on strike until you see something physical being done, or once the meeting has been called, you'll be satisfied enough to return to the classrooms?
We don't trust the system any longer. We have called off strike and sat down to discuss the issues, but some people did not commit themselves to it. We cannot trust the system. The authorities have shown bad faith over the past few months, and we think that we cannot risk it again.
So you'd want to see something concrete being done, or something being implemented before you decide to go back to the classrooms?
Exactly. We need to see concrete things done.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it here for now. Thank you very much, Christian Adai Boku. He is the national chairman of the president, of the National Association of Graduate Teachers. He tells us that their strike is actually going to go on if nothing is done between now and Monday, and they will not return to the classrooms unless they see something concrete being done about their concerns or the grievances they've raised. Unless something is actually implemented, they are not returning to the classrooms. Let's take a break. Welcome back. This is still the Midday Brief on Joy News. Let's look at some of the comments you started sending us on Facebook. Lots of you are talking about the teachers' strike they've declared. Emmanuel Gerard Owen Kobna Akom Yamwa says, good move by the teachers. Anthony Hope Ahedo says, no school, hallelujah. You should see the number of O's after the no. Probably I think he's a student and he's just excited about the fact that the teachers are on strike. I don't think you should be excited about that. A. Sadiq Sadlas Yasaba says, this move by the teachers is long overdue. Arise, gallant teachers, and fight for what is due. Kweku Kwata also says, that's good. That's all he simply says. Sidi Abdul Razak says, these teachers are too greedy and jealous of university lecturers. Abba. Really? Okay. Stephen Osei also says long overdue, saying that the teacher strike is long overdue. But let's do some other stories. You can send us your comment, facebook.com/Joy News. That's our address on Facebook. But let's do some other stories now. The judge presiding over the judgment debt case between the state and businessman Alfred Woyome has warned journalists covering the trial he will be compelled to throw them out if they continue misreporting proceedings that happened in the court. Justice John Ajet Nassam at the Financial Division of the Fast Track High Court issued the warning following complaints from both the prosecution witness and lawyers of the accused for what they say is the continuous misreporting of events that happened in the courtroom. Senior State Prosecutor Cynthia Lamte says her observation over the period point to a systematic pattern of misreporting by some media houses. She mentioned both the Daily Guide and the Enquirer newspapers as those guilty of that particular act. Lawyer for Alfred Woyome, Alhaji Musa Ahmed, raised issues with the Ghanaian Times publication. He says the content was in a variance with the rulings in court. Justice Ajet Nassam, who took notice of the complaint, said he is equally unhappy with the continuous embellishment of reports from his court. He said any journalist covering the proceedings can contact the court for clarifications over issues that were not clear to them before proceeding, to warn he will be forced to take drastic action against offenders. Quote, you can access the court proceedings after hearing in order to report accurately, he said, adding that any media house which publishes misleading reports will not be allowed in my court, unquote. He says he is not in any way trying to trample on the rights of journalists, but the right thing should be done. On the substantive case, Director of Legal Department at the Public Procurement Authority, Leslie Dodu, who was a prosecution witness, gave an overview of their operations. She says the authority is there to ensure the public purse is protected. So if you're a journalist out there and you have been covering the Alfred Woyome case, well, that's a caution to you. Away from that, the communications director of the Ghana Standards Authority, Kofi Amponsah-Bediako, has defended the authority's stamp of approval for the use of aluminium sulfate, which was said to have expired. According to him, even though the aluminium sulfate had an expiry date of 2012, it could not have lost its potency within a year, since it is an inorganic chemical which usually loses its potency after 5 years.
4 officials of the Ghana Water Company and the Ghana Urban Water Company have been interdicted since investigations into the expired alum revealed that 0.7% of the total 12,000 metric tons had been used to treat water at the Wager treatment plant. Meanwhile, the Ghana Standards Authority, which conducted analytical tests and declared the sample potent, has been criticized as lacking the capacity to carry out the test. But Head of Public Relations Kofi Amponsah-Bediako says the fact that the authority declared the expired substance potent and harmless does not mean it shirked its responsibility of safeguarding the health of Ghanaians. He, however, noted it was strange that a substance which usually expired after 5 years had its expiration date within a year and blamed the development on the packaging.
We did the test, and we said that the level of potency was still high, which meant that it wasn't harmful. Any chemist or expert in chemistry in the area of water will confirm that inorganic substances like aluminum sulfate does not cause harm to human beings if they consume. And that is what many people are finding difficult to understand. The problem is that it got expired. How did it become expired? Probably they didn't clear it early. Now that's a different issue. It can be dealt with.
So, what harm can expired aluminium sulfate cause when its end product is consumed by human beings?
In the case of chemicals, normally when they are manufactured, they last for 4 or 5 years. In the case of this one, what they are saying is that it was manufactured a year ago or some time back, and within a year it was supposed to expire, which is strange. Chemicals don't perform that way. Very strange. And some of us and other members in this organization are beginning to wonder whether the expiry date put on it is really the correct one, unless it is not chemical. But if it is a chemical like aluminum sulfate, you cannot manufacture it and expect it to expire within a year.
But could anything have been done differently to spare the public the risk of being poisoned?
The Ghana Water Company will need to plan well, especially its procurement processes. It must bring in quantities of aluminum sulfate that it can use over a period of time. If you want to bring in a quantity which expires in 5 years, and you are sure that within the 5 years, every item within the quantity can be utilized, bring them in. But don't bring excessive quantities when you know that you cannot use them. That brings in problems. Problems of expiry, problems of believability that it will not harm people, even though we know that in the case of chemicals it's different.
Kofi Amponsa Bediako advised the Ghana Water Company to dispose of the chemicals to allay fears.
On March 15, 2013, the global consumer movement comes together to use the occasion to expose the very real damage caused by poor or non-existent consumer protection around the world. And today is that particular day.
The theme that we consumers in Ghana wants to, or the agency wants to use, is we should pass the consumer bill into law, whereby it's been a document since 2007. The reason why we need to pass this bill is it will actually enhance the growth of our economy. You cannot take the consumer for granted. The consumer has the right to be heard, the right to information, the right to safety, and then the right to be compensated. Okay, so these are the things that makes a consumer, or the laws that protects the right of the consumer. If our laws which are supposed to make us safe, whether in our homes or even outside our homes, if the law is there and the law is not being enforced. But I'm sure by the passage of the bill will give Ghanaians the basic information and to be able to know that, yes, you don't have the right to tell me that I bought something from you, I cannot return it. We have a situation where even we have our laws in our books which protects people from renting. What do we see in Ghana? We have rent control. They will tell you they are under source. But with the passage of the bill, any Ghanaian can take the rent control on and say, yes, just enforce the mandate that is given to you. So we hope that Ghanaians would enjoy today, especially consumers of Ghana. I mean, I guess everybody is a consumer in Ghana, so I'll say all Ghanaians should enjoy this day. But do insist on your basic rights.
Certainly, today is Consumer Day, so do insist on your rights when you're purchasing whatever it is you're purchasing, wherever you're doing that. But away from Consumer Day, the local government ministry will no longer be the sole implementing agency on policies on decentralization. This follows the formation of the Inter-Ministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization, which is to be chaired by President John Mahama. The committee will now guide all government ministries and state agencies as to how to decentralize their operations.
Clearly, under the article, what has to be laid as financial...
The 10 thematic areas in which the Inter-Ministerial Coordinating Committee will be operating includes political decentralization and legal reforms, administrative decentralization, decentralized development planning and budget, spatial planning and local economic development. The rest are fiscal decentralization, popular participation and accountability in governance, social agenda, institutional arrangements for policy coordination, and the involvement of non-state actors in local governance. Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Kwesi Oponfosu, hailed the formation of the Inter-Ministerial Coordinating Committee as a key step in governance, quest to decentralize its programs and policies.
In South Africa, they say local government is everybody's business. That's the slogan. So everybody knows what is going on in respect of their local government. As we sit here, from your birth certificate to your death certificate is the responsibility of the local government. From the market that we eat our food is the local government. So if they say local government is everybody's business, I think it's in the right direction. We should see it as such and then be interested in what is in here in the report, what has been achieved so far and what is left to implement.
Former local government minister in the Rawlinson's administration, Professor Kwamina Ahoy, said the work of the Inter-Ministerial Committee goes beyond the topical issue as to whether district chief executives should be elected or not.
Centralization involves giving instructions to other ministries. And therefore, when you are the Minister of Local Government and you have to give instructions to your colleague ministers to undertake certain assignments, it's always very, very difficult. That was one of the major difficulties that I faced as the Minister of Local Government. And with that experience, we decided that we needed a higher body, to direct the affairs so that even if the ministry would do the technical work, the instructions would not go under the signature of the minister, but of an authority higher than the minister.
The local government minister later launched a report by the committee, which is expected to serve as a blueprint to facilitate the work of the committee.
It's the weekend is almost here with us. What are you doing to stay in shape? Jennifer Jane Asante will join me shortly with some tips for you. Okay, thanks for staying with us. Like I rightly promised, the lady of the house is here. Jennifer Jane Asante is here and trying to keep us in shape for the weekend.
Yes, I am.
So what are we doing to keep in shape this weekend?
Well, for the past few days, we've been talking a lot about diabetes. And if you have been following, then it means you now know the types and risk factors. So today we want to talk about the treatment bit. Exercise and what you eat play a key role in the treatment of the disease. So here are some guidelines for you. In international brief, the EU is set to discuss lifting its arms embargo to allow supplying rebels in Syria. And researchers in France say rapid treatment after HIV infection may be enough to functionally cure about a tenth of those diagnosed early. Researchers in France say rapid treatment after HIV infection may be enough to functionally cure about a tenth of those diagnosed early. They have been analyzing 14 people who stopped therapy but have since shown no signs of the virus resurging. This follows reports of a baby girl being effectively cured after very early treatment in the US. However, most people infected with HIV do not find out until the virus has fully infiltrated the body. The group of patients known as the Visconti cohort all started treatment within 10 weeks of being infected. The patients were caught early as they turned up in hospital with other conditions and HIV was found in their blood. They stuck to a course of antiretroviral drugs for 3 years on average, but then stopped. The drugs keep the virus only in check. They cannot eradicate it from its hiding places inside the immune system.
For you. And surprise, surprise, today, I'm not going to tell you. Smart. What's happening in showbiz today?
Well, the VGMA's nominations list, as you know, is already out, but the controversy just keeps pouring. I think it's become traditional now. We should accept it. Nicholas Omane-Champon has accused the organizers of bias and lack of transparency, and now he's saying that Kwesi Oteng did not deserve to be nominated for Gospel Album of the Year because he hasn't got an album to his credit. And then Asem, who also has a problem with the nominations list already, now says that he thinks the VGMAs lacks credibility. Exactly.
Wow.
So more controversies coming up.
I know,
with the
sounds
VGMA.
kind of sour grapey to me.
Yeah, well, that's what everybody's saying, but he says, no, well, no, not exactly, you know, so we'll just leave it like that. One more message from Facebook before we wrap up. Al-Hassan Sanusi says, oh God, is it that teachers have no sympathy for poor children under their care, or is it that they have no children schooling? I wonder. Well, that's what you say. I wonder. Okay, before we go, second look at our headlines. The National Association of Graduate Teachers, Nagrat, and the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, have instructed their members to stay off the classrooms from Monday, March 18, 2013. And Christian Adaipoku, the president of Nagrat, tells us unless something concrete is done, they are not ending their strike. Alfred Agbeshiwoyome has returned to court today, but the judge on that particular case is warning the media, if you cannot report accurately, please stay out or he'll kick you out of his court. And then also the Member of Parliament for Kwada is warning of a imminent food crisis if nothing is done to improve the agriculture sector. Well, that's our bulletin. My name is Nia Krofi Smatabe.
My name is Jennifer Jane Asante.
Okay, the Midday News returns on Monday. Make a date with us then. Bye-bye.
There's a news briefing at 2. Good afternoon.